Hello, we have finished week 1 of Feeling Alive in 2025, and we have just started week number 2. And I wanted to share some information that I got off the captain's call as well as last night's call because there was so many wonderful nuggets that I wouldn't be a good coach if I didn't share it with you. So one of the things I want to share, and I do try to share this every time I coach a team of people, is Lori, do you know what the Bristol stool chart is?
No.
Okay. So the Bristol stool chart is a chart that teaches you how to tell how your diet is through your bowel movements, basically. And it is wonderful. I learned about it when I had my functional medicine doctor that I was working with. I'm going to pull this up and then share with you because I think it's important just to take a couple of minutes just to discuss this, because those of us that are on a ketogenic diet, sometimes we don't know if we're in ketosis or if we're out of ketosis or if we're doing the keto right or not. But even if you're doing the Mediterranean diet or any other diet, the one thing that we learned last night is that we have to have the right amount of balance between protein, fats, and carbohydrates. If you look at this chart, number 4 is what you're going to really aspire for. So you want it to look like a smooth, soft sausage or like a snake. If it's hard or lumpy or really runny, then your macros are likely off. So what I teach people is that when you have the right balance of everything, you will have a nice long bowel movement, snake-like, sausage-like bowel movement. If you're constipated or it's really hard and lumpy, it's probably because you don't have enough hydration in your body. If it's too liquidy, it's probably because you're eating something that doesn't agree with you. And the reason this is important is if you're tracking what you're eating in an app or even handwriting it, this will give you a lot of information about your body and how you process foods. So I don't want to belabor it, but I think it's important enough to talk about it. So I'm using the Carb Manager app right now, and I am really focusing on trying to get the right balance of protein, carbs, and fat, healthy fats. Now, I was talking with someone today that is a little bit younger than I am. She's probably about 3 or 4 years younger than I. And she was saying how she couldn't get the scale to move, and she's paying a functional doctor. And that doctor told her to keep her total sugars to 12 or under a day, and that will help move the scale. So I thought that was extremely interesting when she was talking about that. So the Carb Manager app, if you're using that app, I don't know about any of the other ones, but I think they're all similar. But when I go to my Carb Manager app, I'm trying to pull it up, and I go scroll down all my food and everything that I've documented. And if I click on in-depth details, can you guys see this? So I'm striving for 75% fat, that's the gold thing, 20% protein, and 5% carbs. You can see I went a little bit over on my carbs today. Not a lot that I'm going to lose sleep over, but the logging really tells you where you're at in that macro thing. The other thing is in our email, and I posted it on our Forever Young page. In our email, there's a Mayo Clinic link to how many calories you should be eating. Because if you're eating too many calories and not moving that much, then you're not going to burn some of the fat away. And what Megan talked about last night is that protein, fats, carbohydrates, they will all impact your hormones. And when it impacts your hormone, it means that you're having an insulin shot up, and then you're having a difficult time processing that insulin, because if you recall, your body has to process the insulin and the sugar first, then it gets to the fat burning. So if you're feeling stuck like I am, it's very good to kind of keep in mind the calories, the macros. It's a lot, the hydration, it's a lot to understand and figure out. But the biggest thing that they shared with us last night on the coaches call was pick one thing, because we can't be perfect in everything. So pick one thing and have that one thing be your 100% all in commitment for the next 8 weeks. That one thing. So I will start. My one thing is tracking and getting the balance of the macros. And then when I scroll down to the in-depth details to look, like my friend was telling me today, and see what my total sugars were for the day. And they were 8.9. So that's good. My macros are close. You're not going to be perfect 75-25. It's not going to be perfect. Or if you're maybe doing more strength training, you probably want more 60-35-5 as far as fat, protein, and carbs, because you have to have protein and fat to build the amino acids to make sure that your body's processing everything right. So it was a big takeaway for me last night between the coach's call and the JuvaFit commit call. I probably am going to rewatch the JuvaFit commit call because it was so full of information. She had some great charts up about, how you can have something like deviled eggs or hard-boiled eggs or eggs, any type of egg, and that can be your protein and your fat. So there are foods that are multi-beneficial to us. And I've recently learned about low PUFA eggs, PUFA eggs, and that's because a lot of eggs that we're eating right now are high in omega-6s, and we don't want to get too much omega-6 in our diet. So we're constantly learning about this food supply that we're mired in and trying to navigate our way through it. So there is a company called Angel Acres that sells low PUFA eggs. You have to order 4 dozen at a time. And I'm going to be honest, by the time you get done with shipping and everything, it's almost $15 a dozen. But I will say this, Bill and I are having a lot of success with them. We are processing them, as in Bristol stool chart, very nicely. Some eggs, even if they're cage free, you don't really know like what they're really eating or if they're finished off with anything. So I've really, in the last few months, I've really dived deep into the woods on some of our food and our food supply. So omega-3s are good for you, but omega-6s not so much, because a lot of people are like eating omega, and not all omegas are the same. So, and I don't want to spend hours and hours on my soapbox about it, but it's important information for us to have, especially women that are over the age of 40. What happens is it's a hormone shift. And when the hormones shift, the way that we process our food shifts. So that's why a lot of us have this midlife weight gain. So I'm really focusing on the tracking. Even when I know I've been a naughty little girl, I'm still tracking it, because it's a big deal to figure out, okay, how did I feel? How are my poops the next day? How? And as you start to write down or to journal in the Carb Manager app or whatever app you're choosing to use, or if you're handwriting it, you will learn a lot about your body. Because the biggest thing I can say is what my body processes won't be what your body will process. And that even includes my sister, who's a blood relative. She processes foods much differently than I do. And it's because of our different health challenges and things that we've done over the years. So, so my commitment is a tracking. I hate, hate, hate tracking. But I learned so much about myself when I do that. So that is my one thing that Megan was talking about on the coaches call last night. That is my one thing and my one commitment. So I want to hear from you that one thing, that do or die that you are going to have as your sole focus. You're still going to do everything else, but that's going to be your hone in, because I believe if I'm tracking and I'm doing everything else that I've committed to doing, that I will have success. But I really want big success for all of us on this challenge. And I think sometimes we show ourselves grace, or we say, well, we couldn't help ourselves or whatever. But that one thing that I'm committing to is tracking. So if I fall off the wagon like I did last week, that one day, I think it was 30 carbs over. I mean, it was ridiculous. I just had this feeding frenzy. Okay, but I tracked it. I tracked everything, good, bad, ugly, indecent, terrible, terrifying, but it taught me a lot. And then you can bet that my stools in the next day or two were not kind to me. Wonder why that is. So it all kind of wraps up together for you. So Lori, what is your one commitment, your one thing that is do or die for you the next 8 weeks?
It's more movement.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And more is more, right? Because we're works in process. We will have our falling off the wagon days, and we'll have our good days. And then we'll have those days like this morning. I haven't lost any weight, any inches, but my clothes sure do feel different. So I know it's coming. So it's just a body awareness, but congratulations on the movement. Is there any specific type of movement you're looking to do or needing help with, or just moving in general?
Moving in general. And no, I need to make myself do it. Like today, I learned that if I don't do it first thing in the morning, it's not going to get done.
Agreed.
Um,
I'm the
I,
same.
I, I had an appointment early this morning, and I was so focused on rushing, rushing, rushing to get ready to leave the house. I did not work out. I didn't do my movement, and still haven't done it. It has to be first thing in the morning.
Right.
And if that means getting up earlier, then I need to do that for myself.
I understand. I understand. That's one of the things that I really have to do as well. So if I may, if you set yourself, just start with 15 minutes. Even if you pace the house 15 minutes before you go to sleep.
Oh, tonight. I'll probably do leg lifts. I could do that
Well,
tonight.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, because movement is movement, right? And even if you're standing in the kitchen for 2 hours preparing food, that's movement. It's not probably the movement that you're looking to do, but it's still movement.
No, I need
Vacuuming the
more
house for 10 or
movement.
15 minutes, you're moving. So movement can be many things. It doesn't have to be going to a gym or specifically doing a walk or specifically doing exercises. It is movement. So I'll just give you that food for thought.
Thank you.
Michelle, what is your do or die one thing that you are totally committed to?
I think with the increased movement, it's definitely tracking, figuring out my new macro carb protein ratios with the increased movement. So, yeah, the tracking, I got 6 out of 7 days last week, and this week it's going to
Perfect,
be 7 out of 7. I'm
perfect.
traveling. It's okay. I'm going to still do it.
Yeah, on the weekends, I have a really hard time to do it, but I will say this for myself, it slows my roll when I know I have to pick up the phone, go searching for all the food, then it's like, do you really want it? So that's a good thing. Our move of the week this week is a reverse lunge and jumping jacks. And what I'm loving about these moves of the week is she is taking a stretching move and a side to side move and combining them, which is really important for all of us as we get older. So,
Mhm.
so anyway, so I can't reverse lunge that far back with the type of knee bend that sweet little Megan does. So, but I do my best and try to make sure that I'm standing tall and elongating as I'm reverse lunging. And then I do a 1 foot to the side jumping jack. I still do my hands over my head, but 1 foot to the side. So if I lunge backwards on my left, I put my feet together and then my left foot goes out. And then if I go on my right, then I put my feet together and then my right foot goes out in the jumping jack. So that was a little bit confusing. I actually had to study the video a couple of times and I thought I would share what I learned about that. Now, with the moves of the week, if you post a photo or a video of yourself fighting for it, even if it's not like Olympic champion type. This week, they will pick one person who will get free refit patches. The refit patches are worth like over $100. So it's a big deal. So they're wanting people to participate. They're wanting to see people of all different varieties and types do things. I tried last week to do the move of the week on the floor and I'm close, but I just wasn't there yet. And the goal of the move of the week is to challenge yourself, but don't injure yourself. So, I tried it on the floor and I'm like, okay, I'm not there yet, but I felt good about the attempt and that there were some parts of that movement last week that I could do on the floor. So I couldn't have done that a year ago. So, that this is a 9-week progression, but it's also a progression to move you on through wherever you want to go after the challenge. Questions?
Oh, I had one. Um, the video that Megan put on, she showed a diagram and you spoke about it where there were two circles
Yes.
about protein and
Fat,
carbs. I
protein,
need
carbs.
to I need
Yes.
to find out where that's at so I can save it and
I
look at that.
will, I will text it to you. I took a screenshot of it.
Okay, thank you.
So it's carbs, protein, and fats. And this is what you're talking
Yes,
about, yes?
yes, 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 yes. I
And
need that.
so
Yeah.
what she was saying are, for example, if you're going to have carbs, it's probably best not to have fruit is your carb. It's better to have beans, lentils,
Mhm.
quinoa, peas, because that can be considered a protein and a carb. And the other thing that she was talking about, and something that I learned from my functional doctor that I worked with several years ago, is something like sourdough bread, believe it or not, sweet potatoes, believe it or not. Those are resistant foods. And what resistant foods are foods that don't give you that insulin release. It's a slower release and then a slower decrease. And then she also had, I think I took a picture of that as well. I'll send this to you. I'll actually post all of this on our page.
Yeah,
And you
that would
can
be
look at.
awesome.
And so she was talking about the food and the timing. So when she talked about, excuse me, when she talked about sweet potatoes, you're not going to get this big insulin rush. You're going to get a flatter rush. And the goal for us, if you can see that, is to try to stay on that
Mhm.
lower line and not have the spikes. Because I can tell you what happens with the spikes let's say you have a dilly bar from Dairy Queen. And I love it. I'm still within my calories. I'm still within my macros. It was so wonderful. But now your insulin's going to spike, which is going to jack up the hormone, which makes you resistant to losing weight, if that's what your goal is. Now you're going to have that drop, that sugar drop. And 2 hours later, you're going to be starving like you haven't eaten anything in a century. So what are you going to do? You're going to reach for another carb and it's going to spike. So what you want to do is you want to have the spiking be a slow spike and a release, because then it doesn't mess with the insulin and the hormones in your body. And that's where you know that you've got it mastered. Now, coming into the challenge last week, I was carb heavy and I knew that I would have to come down off it gradually. Otherwise, I was going to be on that roller coaster. So coming down off it was a little bit difficult. But as Megan had suggested at the end of our last challenge, I was probably up to 40 carbs a day. So now I'm like 30, 25, 20. 20 is my ideal, but I'm not there yet. Some days I am, but some days I'm not. And so if I'm in that 20 to 25 range, I'm okay with that if it's not perfect, because I'm managing it. I'm managing it with more fat or things like that. But I'm also noticing now I'm not hungry and on this hunger roller coaster that we get on sometimes. And it's horrible, because you're like, my God, I'm starving. And you're not starving. You just had your insulin go whoop, whoop. And so now you've got the letdown, and then you want to go take a nap for a couple of hours. And so that's another way.
I've got a question. So I know calorie intake is important, and I have heard, because I'm learning all this stuff. I've been told before I don't eat enough calories, but what I do eat is really healthy for me.
Right.
And if I eat the right things in the morning, I don't even think about food. I don't even need anything, want anything, crave anything until like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So should I continue with that? Is that a good thing? Or should I just put stuff in my mouth?
So no, you should continue with that. However, there's a but. So if you go on the Mayo Clinic thing that I posted in our page and enter in your age, your height, and enter in the weight you want to be, not the weight you are, but the weight you want to be. I did it both ways. I enter the weight that I am and the weight that I want to be. So the weight that I am, it says to maintain that weight, I need 1,900 calories a day. And I never eat 1,900 calories a day. To be the weight that I want to be, I have to be somewhere between 16 and 1,700 calories. So what happens is, on the days that you have, because I think today I did not, I have 1,880 calories. So that's too many calories. So I ate the wrong type of food with too many calories. So that means that, nothing's going to be released. But if you eat like only 600 or 900 calories a day, then your body holds on to everything and won't release anything because it thinks it's in starvation mode.
Okay.
So my suggestion to you would be to go on the Mayo Clinic site and figure out how many calories you should be eating for your ideal weight and try to come closer to that, and maybe eat more nutrient-rich foods with fats, because the fats will also increase the calories. So with avocado, olive oil, those sorts of things, that will increase your caloric intake without you having to constantly chew on just any old thing.
And I'd like to piggyback on that. When I use the Carb Manager app and I plan out what I'm eating for the day, I can kind of see And then I plan out an extra snack or something that I maybe wouldn't have eaten before, and kind of make myself do that snack if I'm not hitting it with my meals. And also just to note that you could start later in the day, like if you're not that hungry in the morning, like do your intermittent fast maybe 14 hours or even 15 hours, depending on how you're feeling, or 16 hours, and then eating in that window. So it's just a tricky balance that you learn with your body of when am I going to start for that day? How much am I going to consume? It might be two bigger meals in that 8 hour window with a snack or two in there. It doesn't have to be the three meals, but there's been a lot of science about intermittent fasting and its benefits for our body, our immunity systems, and our
I
health.
have a
So,
friend that only eats between the hours of 11 and 7. She doesn't care if
That's
she's
me.
starving at 8
That's
or
me.
9 in the morning. And
yeah.
I pretty much follow that as well. Sometimes I'm hungry like at 10, but I'm usually done eating around 6 or 6:30. So I have the same kind of little short thing, but she's lost 35 pounds doing that. I don't lose 35 pounds, but I'm still tweaking the proteins and the fats and everything. But you do want to try to get the calories in, because that's where the amino acids is. That's where the collagen is. It's rebuilding your muscle fibers and all of that. So you don't want to be in starvation mode or your body thinking that. You want to kind of come close to it. So let's say you go online and it says you need 1,200 calories and you get 1,000 calories. That's probably okay, but then maybe the next day you want to have 1,300 calories and kind of balance it out, because it doesn't have to be like I did 1,800 today, but I did 1,300 yesterday. So I'm right at about the 1,600 mark for the last couple of days. You want to kind of have that average out over the week to be right around 1,200 calories per day. It's not an exact science. Nothing is an exact science. I will tell you this. I had blood work done in September and I had blood work done last week. My cholesterol dropped 50 points, no medications, and my triglycerides halved. I went from 120 to 60 in my triglycerides. And thank you, thank you. And the doctor was insisting on medicating me, and I'm like, why would I do that? What I'm doing is working. Yes, the scale. Oh, my last doctor said, oh, I'm sure you're diabetic, but he never tested my A1C. I am not diabetic. So, they look at a number on this scale, and that's why I don't focus as much on the weight as much as I do the inflammation. There's a big difference in me. If you notice, there's a huge difference in me over the last 5 to 6 years on inflammation alone. This is only 35 pounds. But treating the inflammation, and then I also had her test my B vitamin, because if you lack in B vitamin, you will hold on to inflammation. And my B vitamins are right where I want them to be. My vitamin D is right where I want it to be. So those are all sorts of supplementation things. Like I've started drinking a little bit of the zinc every morning. It gives me energy, but it's got niacin and B vitamin, which helps the inflammation in your body drop. So we have things that are helpful for that: the ginger, the turmeric, the muscadine. All of those things are helpful in reducing inflammation. So, and the Galaxy, the Zing, the Refuel, those all have calories too. So maybe you have a cup of coffee and some Refuel or something. So then you're not necessarily having to say, oh my God, I have to eat something. You can add it and drink it.
I did have zinc for the first time in a long time today.
Me too. I just restarted it. I realized that I still had some, and I'm like, I think I'm going to do this in the morning. So I'm doing a little bit of zinc, not a full scoop because the niacin is a little bit
Too
much
much.
for me. So I do about a half a scoop of the zinc. I do about a third of the probiotic packet. And then my shot of Galaxy, which I love that product, is high in
too.
carbs, but see, it's complex carbohydrates. So I'm trying not to get hung up on carbs, and I'm trying to find healthier carbs because I was a carbaholic as far as eating 15,000 slices of bread every day. So that's not a complex carbohydrate, but the Galaxy is a complex carbohydrate. So somebody said to me, well, I can't do the keto diet with the Juva products because they're all high in carbs. It's like, yeah, but they're nutritional carbs. And going back to the Bristol stool chart, it helps me have that more perfectly formed stool, which I know then that my gut's in good health and everything is moving as it should through the system.
If you guys haven't tried cold pressed coconut oil, I highly suggest it in your coffee. It's works.
Well, post which one you use because you're
Okay.
right, the cold pressed makes the difference.
Mhm.
It makes a
Okay.
difference. Also, for mouthwash, because there's so many debates around fluoride and how that can interrupt the adrenal system and the hormonal system. Oil pulling with the cold pressed coconut oil is very, very good for oral health and gut health.
Do you follow Barbara O'Neill?
Who?
Barbara O'Neill.
No,
She's a physician, a naturalist. If you do the pulling of the oil, don't spit it in your sink
right.
or put it in your toilet. Go outside and spit it
I
because it
actually
does.
fit it in my garbage can
There you go.
and just take it out. Right, right. You don't
Mhm.
want to do that. And I cannot do that because we live on a septic system. So
Mhm.
that would really create a nightmare for us. But yeah, but the oil pulling, I'm starting to do that a couple times a week because it whitens the teeth, it removes the tartar, it does all the things that you want
Mm.
mouthwash and toothpaste to do. And is very good for your gut health, is your gut biome.
Mhm.
Great call. Anything else? Thank you both. Keep checking in on the Forever Young page, and if you're brave, do a video and see if maybe you can qualify for a free refit. I may do it, although I don't have anybody who's here to video me because Bill's working nice right now, and I'm not very good at setting it up and doing all that kind of thing, but it might be worth it for the refit. And by the way, I would be one of the most pathetic ones to enter, but the way I look at it is I couldn't walk 2 years ago, so yay me. I can kind of sort of bend and I can do, a halfity diddy jumping jack. So it's better than what I was doing 2 years ago. And that's what I keep saying. I want to just try to keep getting better every day. So thank you guys for your support, your love, for sharing. I will post everything on the Forever Young page, and you got and share Barbara O'Neill's too, because I'm curious about that.
Okay. I ordered, just to let you know, I ordered her book.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I can't wait to get it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I ordered the book about a year and a half ago called The Great Cholesterol Myth,
Hmm.
because I am of the opinion that as we age, we need cholesterol. We don't need to be lowering our cholesterol. We don't need to be going whole hog on it, but we don't need to be having lower cholesterol. And I witnessed our father having very, very low cholesterol and very difficult cognitive ability in communicating. So the great cholesterol myth says that if you take your triglyceride number and divide it by your good cholesterol, your HDL. That will give you your cardiac risk assessment score. Mine is 0.89%, less than 1%. So I put that in my portal to the doctor because I'm tired of them being drug pushers and not looking at the whole picture.
Mhm.
And I said, I'm okay with refusing this new medication you're wanting me to go on. The side effects are way too numerous. And I did do statins many, many years ago and had a lot of difficulty on the medication. Thankfully, I worked for a cardiovascular thoracic surgeon at the time. And I said to him, I think the statins are making me goofy. He goes, I agree. And you know what he said to me? Take ginger and turmeric.
See there?
Get off the statins and take ginger and turmeric. And he sold our ginger and turmeric for quite some time. And if the patients were open to not having prescription drugs, he said to them, this is better. This is better. So that, and he was old school and he wasn't a big believer in statins unless you really had some serious heart issues. But this newer drug that the doctor was wanting to prescribe to me, it had all these side effects. I had liver and kidney bad blood work whenever it was run on the statins. They're like, well, it's not that bad. Well, how long are you on the drug before it gets that bad? And since I've been off the statins, I haven't had any of those issues with my blood work at all. So I believe that God gave us bodies to heal ourselves through proper nutrition and the medicine. And I do take a medication, but medicine is supposed to help us while we try to come back to center and do what our body naturally likes to do, and that's to heal itself. So I will be very interested about her book because I
Well,
love,
I can tell you this, natural garlic and honey and lemon combined, what those three things do. And this is like a recipe book. So you keep this in your fridge, you make this and put it in
yes,
a mason jar.
yes,
I'm super excited about it.
yes. Share, share.
I will
Yeah,
for
please
sure.
share because I also have a home remedy book that I bought that has the same thing in there. And at night, sometimes I will drink a little bit of honey, green tea, which also helps release
Mm-hmm.
inflammation in the body,
Mm-hmm.
and lemon juice, which is a natural gut biome healer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was drinking that after I got the norovirus over Christmas, and that was really helping a lot. So, yeah, it is. It's amazing what we have in our homes, in our gardens, in our world that we could be utilizing for more natural healing. So
Mm-hmm.
that's awesome. All right, I will let you guys go. Thank you so much. And
Love you.
stay strong, stay focused. That one commitment, don't forget about it. And if you think you're gonna, text me or hop on the Facebook group page and say, I need help. That's what
Love
we're
you.
all here for.
Have a
Bye.
great week, everybody.
Bye.
You
Bye,
too.
Bye.
Michelle. Bye, Melissa.